Call the Joint Committee of Finance to order. Clerk will take a silent roll to determine if there's a quorum. There is a quorum. Recognize co-chair for a purpose of a motion.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes of previous meeting. Any corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. First on the agenda is Secretary Hardy and/or Mark Muko for the review the previous month. Are they in attendance?
Yes, Secretary Hardy's here. We were not able to link up with the video, but we were able to come on by speakerphone. So we're appearing by sound only.
Okay. So Secretary, would you, I think, all right, we have your handout.
Okay.
I think it's the same that Mark does to us every month. So we are prepared with the Joint Standing Committee on Finance, November 13th, Department of Revenue, a handout.
Okay. May I make a few comments for the committee?
Yes, please.
Okay. And of course, Mark's here to my right, and we're here at the Revenue Conference Room, and thank you for allowing us to appear remotely. Generally, I would go over some figures at this time, but we did something last week that's much more important than 1 month's figures, and that was our annual ratings calls that we do every year with Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. And next to the budget, which of course is one of the main purposes of the Department of Revenue, is to present the governor's budget and help the governor draft it. The most important thing we do every year is when we appear in front of the rating agencies. And each of these calls last about 2 hours. And I just want to give you a quick review of their feedback about us. First of all, And we've done this all 7 years that I've been here. We always get good feedback about our rainy day fund balance. This year, of course, it was nearly $1.2 billion, and that's always viewed very favorably by the rating agencies, and that's nothing new. Our public employees retirement system has reached funding of 98.8%. So we are very, very close to hitting the 100% mark. Maybe a year from now, we'll be able to say that we're there. And our teacher retirement system is now funded at 78.4%. I did a quick look back. When Governor Justice got here in January of 2017, we were at 67.1%. So we have improved by 11.3% since in the last 7 years, and we continue to climb out of that hole, and that's quite an accomplishment. The one that's most surprising, and this is one that in the collective is a real feather in the state's cap, in as late as 2019, we had an OPEB, unfunded OPEB liability of $1.6 billion. As of this year, that number has gone to a positive $158 million. So that was such a good outcome that we actually went back and audited those numbers. We get those numbers from PEIA and the retirement board, and that obviously was very well received by the rating agencies. Our old workers' comp fund debt, which started as a negative of $2.25 billion in 2006, is now been officially retired, and the official balance now is plus $7 million. So all those things are good, and they got better this year. But let me tell you some things that were new this year. The rating agencies have been very interested in our income tax reductions and wanted a lot of information about those income tax reductions. Mark and I both explained how they worked, what our projections were, and that despite our income tax reductions, which took effect January 1st of 23, we are still at the end of October of this year, we're still $240 million to the positive. The other thing that was very, very important to the rating agencies, and we were complimented on it, was the decision to go ahead and put $400 million in the personal income tax reserve fund, giving us a balance of $460 million in that fund to cushion us in case that the income tax reductions were too aggressive. To date, the numbers don't indicate that, but they were very complimentary of the fact that we had taken, we being the governor and the legislature, had set aside those funds in case our projections were incorrect. The other very important point that they asked a lot of questions about was the first trigger, and the first trigger will be August 15th of 2024, when we do a calculation and determine whether there will be additional income tax credits in calendar year or reductions in calendar year 2025. So they wanted to understand how the trigger worked. They seemed to understand it very much and appreciated the fact that the trigger takes a base year of 2019, adjusted for inflation. And they were also complimentary of the fact that we took severance tax revenue, which is historically very volatile, out of the trigger calculation. So it's based basically on consumer sales tax and personal income tax revenue. Those were all strengths, but the other thing that we tried to do now, and we do it every year, is we try to look at their reports and address some of our weaknesses in a proactive way. The weaknesses that we've had pointed out to us by the rating agencies for several years now are early childhood education. And we pointed out that we now have the Communities in Schools program, and that the legislature had made a major commitment to early childhood education in the K through 3 initiative, which is being implemented over a 4-year period. Economic Development, Secretary Carmichael did an outstanding presentation on all the economic development accomplishments that have occurred in the last few years, not just Nucor, which of course is the home run of all home runs, but many of the other economic development achievements as well. Secretary Ruby did a presentation on tourism and the West Virginia Ascend program, and how the very proactive efforts that are made to make more people come to our state for tourism, and through the West Virginia Ascend program to move to our state, particularly in-home workers. We pointed out that West Virginia is becoming a more diverse economy, and I'll highlight this number. Only 2.9% of the employment in West Virginia now is either coal or timbering. 2.9% is coal and timbering combined. So we highlighted the fact that 97.1% of our economy is based on other types of employment. Last but not least, we presented to Ann Erling, who did an excellent job, all the programs through the governor's office where we are leveraging our federal dollars to maximize our matching opportunities. And Ann did a presentation on that, highlighting all the billions of dollars of federal grants that have gone into infrastructure and highways in our state. So we continue to show our good points, but we also try to proactively address constructively things that they have pointed out to us. That being we need to diversify our economy, we need to improve our early childhood education, and we need to grow our tourism and encourage professionals to come to our state. Overall, it was a very good ratings presentation, and we felt good about it, and we're expecting a good outcome here within the next probably month on our ratings, the ratings that we get. And traditionally, we get very good ratings, AA stable or something akin to AA stable. But that's, I think, very important, and that's a chance I wanted to present that, and then I'll turn it over to Mark. But that's sort of a presentation of the forest, not the trees, and what the outside world looks at when they look at our budgeting and our performance. And compliments to the governor and everybody else involved, because they clearly got it and understand that we've made a lot of progress here in the last 7 years. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm open for any questions, or I'll turn it over to Mark Muco, whatever the chair prefers.
I think we would prefer that Mark go ahead and give his presentation, then we'll take questions after.
Okay.
So Mark, please.
Yes, so this is Mark Muco with the West Virginia Department of Revenue. And if we go to the first full page of numbers, it's the October 2023 General Revenue Fund collections. And October, once every 3 months, we have a various local tax distributions, and October would represent one of those months. Overall collections in October were $390.8 million. That was $7.4 million above estimate. Compared to last year, it was down 20.7%. Looking at the individual tax components, the sales tax was $125.2 million. It was a little bit below estimate, very close to estimate, and 1.4% ahead of last year. Sales tax in October was affected by the local tax distributions. Municipalities receive their quarterly municipal sales tax once every 3 months, and the distribution in October was $36.7 million, which was 8.8% ahead of last year. So a very positive number on the local sales tax distribution. The personal income tax was $189.3 million. That was almost $9.8 million above estimate. Compared to last year, down 12%. But of course, we had a 25.25% tax reduction there, so it's still running with some growth there, minus the tax reduction. Withholding tax for the month was down about 11.4% from last year, but again, that reflects the tax cut. The severance tax turned out to be negative $37.5 million, which was below last year by about $106.6 million below last year as collections, and it was certainly below estimate by about $40.5 million. But the quarterly severance tax distributions occur in October as well, and not only quarterly severance tax distributions, but once in a year oil and gas severance tax. And we have a situation where the oil and gas severance tax distribution that went out in October was based on 2022 tax year. when the average price of natural gas was, for tax purposes, was over $5 per MCF. Current prices for natural gas are a lot closer to $1 per MCF, so we're down about 80%. So we have lower revenue coming in, mixed with a much higher payout on the local oil and gas severance tax. In fact, the oil and gas severance tax to local governments was up 76% over last year, a total of $73.4 million. We also had a local coal bed methane distribution, which was $1.1 million. That was actually down by 31.5% from last year. We had money going to the DEP well plugging fund based on a program enacted by the legislature about 2 years ago of $6.75 million. That was up 86.5% over last year. And we had two separate quarterly coal severance distributions. The 0.35% tax was $8.3 million, which was down about 17% from last year. And the local 5% coal sharing was close to $3.7 million, which is down about 20% from last year. That reflects the lower coal prices this year relative to last year. So overall, the total of distributions that went out of severance was $93.25 million, or 51% higher than last year. So we actually collected $55.8 million in severance tax, but after all those distributions went out, we ended up with a negative 37.5. So relative to last year, we were down about 57.3%, which was actually an improvement compared to prior months. Also, I mentioned that corporate taxes are continuing to do well. They were up 37.6% in October. And insurance premium taxes, which come in generally on a quarterly basis, also did well, up 6.2% compared to October of last year. We move on to the next slide. The next slide is year-to-date numbers through October, the first 4 months of the year. And after 4 months of the year, we have almost $1.81 billion in collections. That's $242.2 million above the estimate. Compared to last year, we're down 10.4%. But again, we have two things going on in the numbers. One is the income tax cut, and the second is the lower severance tax prices. So both are weighing a little bit negatively on the overall numbers. But we're still running $242 million above estimate year to date after 4 months, which is very good. The sales tax done very well. It's up 4.1% over last year, and we have an $11.9 million year-to-date surplus. Personal income tax doing better than expected. Have $121.4 million surplus for the year-to-date, and down 3.2% after 4 months. Severance tax, we're running below estimate by $53.5 million year-to-date, and for the General Revenue Fund, running below last year by 89.8%. But when you take into account all severance taxes, including the severance tax that goes to local governments and infrastructure bond fund, the year-to-date severance tax is actually down about 63%, which is very, very close to our forecast. In fact, we really believe that in future months, the severance tax is likely to outperform the estimates for most of those months. So we still think the severance tax by the end of the year should be at or above estimate. Corporate taxes, very well for the first 4 months of the year, up 24.8%. That's strong growth there. Insurance premium, we're basically right on estimate, slightly above 3.9% growth for the year to date. Tobacco's down a little bit. Interest income is certainly higher because we have higher interest rates to go along with more cash flow to be invested. Included in those investments is $460 million in the personal income tax refund reserve account. Those monies earn interest, and the interest on those monies ends up going back to the General Revenue Fund, and that by itself is over $2 million a month. So we move on to the next slide. Next slide is the severance tax, the 12-month trailing trend on severance tax. And because of lower prices, production's higher for coal and natural gas, but prices are lower. We've come down from about $1.08 billion on a 12-month trailing trend basis in February. In October, we're down to about $610 million. So in a few short months, that number has gone down quite a bit. But relative to his history, that 610 is still very good. The last peak prior to February 23 was in June of 19 at $477.8 million. So still the numbers are very good relative to longer term numbers. In terms of the individual types of minerals, coal is down about 11 or 12% from its peak. So it's actually more stable than natural gas. In terms of, I think the last meeting there was a question asked about coal prices. Currently, steam coal prices are running very close to $60 a ton. They've been fairly stable and maybe even slightly increased over the last year. Metallurgical coal, back in second quarter of 2022 on the foreign markets, we had metallurgical coal going for well over $330 a ton. It's now down to probably in the neighborhood of about $180 a ton. So it's come down quite a bit in the international market. So overall, the other coal prices are down about 25% from where they were a little over a year ago. Natural gas average prices again down about 80%. So that's where the big drop is. We went from a peak of $681 million on a 12-month trailing basis in March of 23. As of September of 23, it was down to about $369 million. So big drop there. Oil's down from peak by about 28%, but it's a little more stable than natural gas. And then all other minerals are down about 40% from their peak in the recent numbers. And next slide is State Road Fund. For the month of October, State Road Fund did very well. We collected almost $107 million. That was $20.8 million above estimate, 42.2% ahead of last year. You'll notice that motor fuel excise tax for the month was up 70.4%. That's purely a timing matter. When the timing comes in, we went from, let's just put it this way, in the first couple of days of November, current month, a year ago, in the first couple of days of November, we collected $21 million in motor fuel tax. This year, it's $2.5 million. So that's where the difference is right there. It's timing. We collected more money in October this year, a little less in October last year, but it all balances out over time. Registration fees for the month were pretty good, up 5.8% over last year, still a little bit below estimate. Motor vehicle sales tax was above estimate by nearly $2 million, down a little bit from last year by 3.6%. And there may be a little bit of interest rate sensitivity on the auto sales. Plus, used car prices are beginning to come down a little bit. So it may cost a little bit less for a used car now than it did a year ago, which may reflect in those numbers a little bit. Also, look at the federal reimbursements, did very well, $61.2 million above last year by 7.4%. Moving to the last slide on the State Road Fund. Year to date, motor fuel excise tax is running ahead of estimate by $15.5 million. But I mentioned that part of that is timing. It's actually still up from last year, but probably closer to about 3 or 4% rather than 17.3. Registration fees are actually down from last year by 8.9%. That would probably be the one component of the State Road Fund that's a little bit disappointing. Sales tax running above estimate by about $7 million, running slightly above last year, 0.2%. But again, some of those car prices are a little bit lower right now than they were a year ago, so that may play into that, as well as the high interest rate environment. You notice that miscellaneous, we've collected $190.5 million so far this year and $158.6 million last year. Both years reflect a one-time, which is actually a two-time, $150 million appropriation by the legislature out of the State General Revenue Fund for the State Road Fund. That shows up in miscellaneous. And on the federal reimbursement side, we're up $46.6 million above estimate, 30.7% ahead of last year. And I can tell you last year was pretty much a record year for federal reimbursements for roads. For the whole fiscal year, we ended up with $639 million when we typically average closer to $400 million a year. So it was a good year last year for federal reimbursements, and the numbers are very strong this year as well. And with that, I'll open up to any questions you might have.
Questions of Secretary Hardy or Mr. Muko? Questions? Co-chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Eric Tarr. And this is probably for Secretary Hardy first, and then maybe follow up with Mr. Muko. Secretary Hardy, you mentioned about the rating agencies taking a look at the diversification of our employment, at least that we pointed out, and that the extraction industry with coal and timber was a very small fraction of our overall labor force. Did you also have discussion about what part of that revenue makes up our total revenue to the state? Because just quick numbers here is looking at what it's been so far for year to date. And so it looks like coal or severance tax as a whole is like 1.9% of our revenue, as compared to last year at the same time, it was around 19%. So there's maybe 17%, sorry, 17%. So is that a discussion at all, maybe?
No, there wasn't a discussion other than general references that we made about severance tax with respect to the trigger and the fact that severance tax is subtracted out of the trigger calculation because it does have a history of being volatile. But as far as what percentage severance tax was of the state's revenue in any given year, that wasn't discussed, other than Mark presenting the data.
Yeah, last year was certainly a record high in terms of severance tax share of general revenue, mainly because of the very high natural gas prices and also relatively high coal prices too for a good part of the year. This year we're running below normal. Typically, severance tax is usually on somewhere between 5 and 10% of total general revenue. With like if you go long-term historic average, it's closer to 5 rather than 10. But certainly last year, right, we set a record in terms of severance taxes as share of general revenue. It was probably probably 15% or more last year.
And that answered my second question, was the norm for the share of general revenue that it usually covers. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Secretary Hardy and Mr. Muka.
Thank you.
Moving on to the agenda, we will now hear from Michael Adams, City Manager for Weirton, West Virginia. Mr. Adams.
I'd like to thank Delegate Chris and Senator Tarr for inviting me to present to this body, and it was a broad assignment. It was to talk about positive economic development activities in my area of the state. So I'm going to try to pack this into about 15 minutes because I have a city council meeting. So bear with me if I start to talk too fast. Slow me down, or somebody give me the high sign or whatever. But within your packet of materials, you're going to see two groups of documents. The first being City of Weirton retail commercial developments. The second being Form Energy. As I go through my presentation, I will be referring to documents within those groups. As I said, this is a pretty broad topic, and I promise you I will get to Form Energy, but I didn't want to short shift any of the other things that are happening in my part of the state. My part of the state is Weirton, West Virginia. It's the 6th largest city. It's situated in both Hancock and Brooke counties. And to quote my kids, Weirton is economically on fire, okay, in a good way. So, I can't minimize the appreciation that we have with regard to the Form Energy package and the financing. I mean, $750 million into our economy into our area's economy is just fabulous. We're seeing the effects almost already, and I'll get to that. Before I do get to that one, I want to talk about a lot of facilities have come to both Brooke County on the riverside and also in parts of Hancock County. We have light manufacturing and processing companies, Grupo Fonte, Neo Industries, Pietro Florentini, numerous additional expansions of our local suppliers that have been there for years. And we've talked about Stravaji Industries and South Chemicals and some of those other longtime businesses that kind of they got to have a jump start. Believe it or not, in the wake of the pandemic, these businesses they started to wake up. They were revived, and I would just want to talk about an area of Weirton called Three Springs Drive at first, because there's been, I would say, almost a monumental change in what was going on there. It's kind of I call it a retail commercial area, and it had been the site of both a Walmart and a Kmart. And there was a Kmart on one side of the road and a Walmart on the other side of the road. And both the Walmart had moved, the Kmart had essentially died. So we have these two large retail areas that were basically quiet for such a long time that it was quite disturbing what they were deteriorating into. Within the past few years, I'd say the past 3-4 years maybe, we've had national chains come to that area, and not, well, obviously the Walmart Supercenter, the Chipotle, another one my kids love, Aldi, Big Lots, Quetzalcoatl, Verizon, O'Reilly's, Dunkin' Donut, multiple Dollar Generals, Dollar Tree, Starbucks, just to name some of the national chains that have come to this small area. And to get an appreciation of where these places have located, there's a series of pictures in the retail commercial developments that have informational bubbles as to where they located. In the Walmart Plaza, the former Walmart Plaza, about 40 new businesses have located there. Everything from technological things to coffee shops, to dress shops, to physical therapy, gyms, restaurants. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. Lest I forget, some of our regional chains have also come to this area of town. Permane Brothers was just opened last week to rave reviews. There's within the pictures, there's a WashRite mega wash facility that's come to that area. So as I said, about 45 new small businesses in a previously darkened Walmart, and probably, 10 businesses in what was a dark and dead Kmart. So, whenever you get regional and national chains come into town, something good is happening because they all trust each other's demographics. So as we well know. The next area of Three Springs Drive is a city private developer combination of, it's known as Park Drive. It's a Park Drive development. It's an EDA grant and TIF funded infrastructure project. Our piece of this puzzle was for the city to install utilities, paving, and a large community green space. And I see it's there within your packet. Now, most people don't. They look at infrastructure and it's not really sexy, but it's necessary to have it. If you're going to have residential and retail buildings, and that area is planned for 2 residential and retail combination buildings with the retail on the lower floor, and I think 16 apartments on each side for the residential component of it. Getting back to the city's part of it, we started our construction and installation of the infrastructure in October of 21. I believe that everything should be done by December of 2023. Again, it's a magnificent thing that has really just opened up the whole area. I can't express to you how much that area was basically quiet for 20 years. Nothing happened up there. That was something that nobody could figure out. Why is this not developing? And again, with the help of the EDA grant, also the BDC was in on that development. It's starting to come to fruition. Again, many photos in there, but it's been a pretty miraculous change. Note also in those photos, there's a possibility of a conference center, but that's going to be down the road. So, stay tuned. Okay, here's the big fish in the pond in Weirton. Is the fire got really hot last December whenever Form Energy came to town. There's a separate packet of pictures and some documents there to talk about Form Energy. And it's kind of funny. Senator Weld had called me about that. I think on December on a Tuesday with a very cryptic message. And started with, can you be in Charleston? I said, yes, why? I said, just, can you be in Charleston? On Thursday, I said, of course I can, and then as time, developed, got some more of the story of what was happening there, and it was quite great news, really. But first, before you can appreciate the importance of form to Weirton, Hancock County, Brooke County, and the entire Panhandle, I think it bears that you have to know part of the story of Weirton Steel. I'm 58. Probably most of you are probably younger than I am, but I'm a lifelong resident of Weirton. I'm a third generation Greek immigrant. My grandparents came here in the 1900s. Everybody in that family, we're all steel workers. Brothers, parents, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, even, it was just amazing. Weirton Steel was at one time, I think, the third or fourth largest integrated steel maker in the world. And even during the demise, they were the largest tin plate producer on the face of the earth. So basically, Weirton Steel was Weirton. As Weirton Steel went, Weirton went. So, and whenever you talk about 13 or 14,000 people working there at one time, it was the state's largest employer, the state's largest taxpayer for a long, long time. And as fate would have it, and the steel market changes and things started to slow down in the 70s. By the early 80s, I was a senior in high school. I remember the news like it was yesterday, where people started to talk about, well, the mill's going to close down. So we're talking, this is a company town. This is the quintessential company town. Hearing that their mill was going to shut down, people were beside themselves. They were scared to death. So by 1982, 1983, there was a movement, and Weirton Steel had actually become an employee, an ESOP, we used to call it, employee-owned company. There were still about 10,000 people working there around 1984, but it certainly was not what it used to be. It was very scary and uncertain times that we had all were experiencing, and it was really difficult because as I said, this town existed around that company, and that company basically built the town. Infrastructure, you need a road, call the mill, they'll put it in. There'll be a labor crew there, 3 days later, they're paving the road, it's in. Our community center was built by steelworker dollars. It's just an amazing place. It really was. It was a town of pride, and everybody knew one thing, and that was the dignity of work. And whenever that started to go away, the character of the town was the fiber of the town started to fall apart a bit. There were buyouts and retirements and whatnot. And I brought this picture. And sadly, I probably should have been better technologically. If you can see this steel mill and 10 to 12,000 people working there, and then this is the town that's all around it. So people would leave work and just walk home. There were times where there were so many people walking across the street that traffic was stopped for a half an hour as all the workers changed their shifts. The mill got smart and actually built a bridge over Main Street so traffic could go through. Main Street is also West Virginia Route 2. So that's kind of the world in the quote unquote old days. I like to say that we were so as the mill went into its demise, we were down but not out, and maybe we're on extended life support. Maybe that's what I was saying. But I think after the 80s and 90s, I think with the bankruptcies and the different companies that came in, and I think the existing companies probably has about 1,000 employees. It was the new normal, but it wasn't new anymore. It's been around for a while. So eventually Frontier Group came to town and acquired most of the Weirton Steel property, about 1,100 acres of industrial space. That's huge. remediated. I think they probably put 90 or $100 million in remediating this site to get it ready for other prospects. And another picture I have here is the, this, if you could imagine, this building is the BOP. This is Main Street, West Virginia, Main Street, Route 2, West Virginia, running right through the center of town. This photo here, again, not to get too nostalgic, this monstrous thing here was the basic oxygen plant, which basically dominated the entire downtown area. These stacks were so high that it would block out the western sun of the houses that were behind it. That's how massive this operation was. So at any rate, we get to the point where Frontier Group remediates the property, and finally it opens up, and you see, holy mackerel! Now we understand why this company ends up where it did. It's in this exquisite bend in the river. There's barge piers. There's a 250-acre island between West Virginia and Ohio, where there's a coke plant that actually existed there at one time. There's an industrial bridge between that. So Weirton, once you opened up the site and looked at it, it was, I say it has the holy trinity of logistics: river, rail, and roads. There's railroad tracks everywhere. There's roads, Ohio Route 7, Route 22 takes you to between Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia within 2 miles. Really quite impressive once you open up the area and understand what's there from a resource, from a logistic and resource standpoint. We have a legendary workforce. We have resources. We have an international airport. It's all right there. So. So whenever Senator Weld called, it kind of verified what we were thinking. This place is going to open up, and finally somebody recognized the value of this what was once a rusty, dusty place. It was an industrial diamond, it became a diamond in the rough. So now we're back to it maybe being something that could support industry and bring back jobs. And once I got to know more about what happened with Form Energy and how diligent their hunt was for industrial space in West Virginia, I was flabbergasted. I mean, they reviewed 500 different sites in 16 different states, and they picked the Weirton. We were just elated, and we still are. And so I say that last Christmas was certainly a season of hope. Finally, we have hope. In Weirton, and after about 40 years of being kind of at on the low end of the stick, we're back. I say $750 million being pumped into art, tied to 750 jobs, and it was just historic. I mean, finally something positive, something progressive, something that doesn't start with "I remember when." Something, we'll have to show pictures of how great it was. So. It's been the linchpin for the entire site. And the important thing is that whenever I first spoke with the developers, they had this very aggressive schedule of construction and whatnot. We met in January of 2020. Yeah, last January, 23. They said, "Oh yeah, we'll have steel in the air in July." Sure you will. Sure you will. We were there July 17th, and they're raising steel in the air. I mean, if you look at the pictures, the progressive pictures of how the site changes, you can see they have met every milestone that they have set for construction. That's why I'm also extremely hopeful that they'll meet their milestones that this financing is tied to. And I don't want to forget to thank the members of the House and Senate that supported this. It's going to be a tide that raises all boats. But with that being said, I just wanted you to know that in the past year, the economic impact. I'm getting back around to where I'm supposed to be. The economic impact on the area within your packet of materials. There's a list that I'd received from the folks at Forum, because I was trying to, get my assignment done here. There are a list of West Virginia vendors and West Virginia labor. It's a one-pager from November 9th of 2023. If you review that list, there are at least 8 Weirden vendors, 4 Fallensby, West Virginia vendors, 2 Wellsburg, West Virginia vendors, thank you, Brooke County, 2 Wheeling vendors, a Moundsville vendor, Steubenville, Ohio, which is directly across the river, and one vendor in Chester, up north. So there's a lot of people doing business and that's just in the construction phase. If you take a look at the West Virginia labor, it's really amazing. There's 11 different unions on this site. You have operators from Moundsville, laborers from Steubenville, plumbers, sheet metal, steam fitters, insulators, carpenters, cement fitters, electricians, iron workers, and pile drivers. I didn't know that there was a pile driver union, but there is, and they're here working. So it's just amazing what has happened with, and these people drive into town, and they come and they eat at our restaurants and buy, and pump gas in their trucks and that kind of thing. So it's really just been amazing. The last thing that I have on the Forum Energy packet, and I probably violated some trademark, I probably impinged on some trademark or something, is I have an economic impact report from Professor Deskins from WVU. And whenever I first read this, I thought, this is a pie in the sky, okay? Then I started to see how well things were progressing. And maybe this isn't a pie in the sky. If you look at the second page, talks about the operational impact as of next year, 2025. When we talk about output, we talk about operational spending. We're in the construction phase. This is operational spending in 2025 is projected to be a total economic impact of 155.6 million, employment 426 people, employment compensation 45.2 million, and total taxes collected 4.2. You're like, okay, that's pretty good. All right. How about 2027? Only 4 years away. Now you're talking about operational spending of 1,051 million. Jobs at over 2,000. Employee compensation of 305 million. Total taxes collected 28.6 million. Not bad for a place that was being torn down about 5 years ago. Let's look at 2029. Still more. It gets better. Operational spending 2.1 billion. Jobs at over 4,000. Employment compensation 611 million. Taxes collected 57.2. So. Granted, these are projections, I realize that, but the more I read them and the more I saw how this was progressing, I was more encouraged every day. And I am more encouraged every day. And I just want to say so many thanks to the people in this room that supported this project and this innovative financing. And we just can't express our thanks and appreciation. I know that the people will not let you down. This is monumental to us. So many thanks. Probably went over my time.
Gentleman from the 52nd.
Thank you, sir. I have a few questions for you, sir.
Okay.
How much did we commit as an investment in Forum Energy?
The EDA's 75 million at first, and then 215 from Bill out of the legislature, 2882. Yeah, 290.
290 million. Now, well, first of all, I want to say, in looking at the list of vendors and the people you have doing construction, that's the best thank you can give to the legislature, because you're keeping that money in West Virginia, and it's just rolling up salaries and everything else. I really appreciate that, and that's a great graphic for for me to be.
It's the best, I think it's the best page of the whole thing.
It is. Now, I noticed once it's up and going in 2029, the taxes estimated are about 57 million. Okay, now I used that number on the floor and I was told that my homework was bad, so I.
Maybe mine is too then.
No, I got this from Dr. Deskins, and
Okay.
he's the one who prepared it. And if you look at 28 million 2 years before in taxes, and you look at 57 now, we're gonna get paid back in 5 or 6 years on that $290 million just in taxes.
I agree. That's the amazing thing out there. It's certainly, as I said, we're tickled. We're tickled for the state too. As I said, this high tide raises all boats. You know, it shows that this can be done, and it's so yeah. I agree with our homework.
It's good. It's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. And good luck.
Gentleman from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And sir, thank you, and first, congratulations to the entire Weird area, on all the work you guys are doing. I know we
Thank you.
focus on form, but it's incredible to see some of the things and the change that we're seeing. We're beginning to see that all over the state. So first thing I'd like to say is thank you for that. And thank you for all the work. Could you turn to page 3 and 4 of the Bureau of Business and Economic Research that you handed us? I wasn't going to mention anything, but since the gentleman who all brought it up, I'll go ahead and sort this out, because I would hope that we would stop using this report or at least get it fixed. So, page 3, it says that employment jobs direct 350, employee compensation in millions of 225.5 million. That would average out to a $644,285.71 jump every average for those jobs. I think they carried a zero. The same is true on page 4, wherein it says 750 permanent jobs and $451 million of employee compensation in direct jobs, which would be $601,333.33 on average. I think they carried a zero. So can you ultimately get WVU to fix this? Because that's clearly not true. And then get us an analysis of the actual total economic impact. And this is coming from someone who vocally supports the bill and happy to have you all have this. But we've got to quit using this stuff.
I know you did, and this is what I said.
Thank you.
Probably violated some copyright of some sort anyhow, so, but it's still good news, nevertheless.
And no,
Still good
great.
news.
I'm there 100%, but to the gentleman, that's the homework that we're talking about. That was incorrect.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Gentleman from the 77th.
Thank you, sir. My question is going to be about emergency services. How are they honing up to what you got now, and what is the plans for the future when you create all these jobs and which will bring more people into the area?
Well, to be brutally honest, we have a professional fire department, 40-man police department, and I don't know that I've necessarily thought it through that far. But we'll have to deal with it as it comes, most definitely. Interestingly enough, I mean, an old war story would be that Weirton Steel was so integrated, it had its own fire department. So really, the city took care of its own area, and Weirton Steel took care of its own area. It's later on in life, the city fire department did start to take over as the operations had shrunk. So hopefully, if there's a need to hire more police and fire, we'll do it. I mean, we're the safest city in West Virginia.
I appreciate that, but it's also concerned with the emergency EMS systems in the hospitals in the area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I will say with regard to the hospitals, the Weird Medical Center is beginning an initiative. I signed a letter today with regard to their plans to increase their emergency services department. If that's, that's some consolation to you. So it's obviously that takes time too, and grant funding and whatnot, but they're well aware of that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, appreciate it very much. Now we'll have Andrew Thomas, Commissioner from the County of Brooke County.
Thank you all for having me here today, and to kind of go off what Mr. Adams had said before. He shared his age, I'll share mine. I'm 34. So I grew up in the downturn of Weird and Steel. My wife and I are both children and grandchildren of Weird and Steel workers. It was the entire lifeblood of our region. So to grow up during that time, to see it all go downhill, certainly had a tremendous impact, watching my father pace the room, wondering whether or not this was the year that he would have to find work elsewhere. After 30 years, he did leave Weird Steel and drove across the river to Brillion, Ohio every day to work at A&P for another 12 years. And after 42 years of employment and being a lifelong Brooke County resident, he was able to retire. So when I ran for this job, I was 29 years old and, no kids at the time. 2 days after I got elected, I had my daughter, and now I also have a 2.5-year-old son. So my mission as a commissioner changed rather quickly. I wanted to, first I wanted to change the world, and after my children were born, I wanted to change Brooke County. I wanted to make it a place that if my children so decided they wanted to stay, they would have opportunities to do so. And I am extremely proud of some of the things that I've been able to accomplish in 5 years. And it's certainly not taking away from the work of my predecessors in this position, or the city of Weirden, or any of our municipalities or neighboring counties. But in the last 5 to 10 years, we have seen public investments in several of our businesses in the area. Brooke Glass, which is an abandoned glass house in Wellsburg, we've seen $687,000 in public funds. Eagle Manufacturing, which is one of the oldest businesses in our region, has seen $535,000 in public funds. Empire Diversified Energy has received $30 million in public funds and was just named as the Arch 2 Hydrogen Hub node in our region. The former Follinsby Steel property see $1.4 million. The Park Drive development, $3.5 million in public funds. Pietro Fiorentini, $1.6 million. And not included in that number is our new $131 million Wellsburg Bridge. So thank you all for that very much. We also have approximately $50 million of water and sewer projects going in Brooke County right now. We'll go ahead right there, you'll see that. So we have, from that total, that investment, you see that we have $72 million of public investment, which is leveraged almost $66 million in private. And from that, we've created 305 jobs in that period of time. We go to the next slide, please. So what I want to do is I want to juxtapose 2 projects that I didn't mention. So first we have the Beach Bottom Industrial Park. It sits on approximately 125 developable acres in Beach Bottom, West Virginia. This site was abandoned sold from a bankruptcy in 2012 from RG Steel. It was purchased by the BDC with the help of an investor. And immediately the BDC undertook efforts to apply for a US EPA cleanup grant of $510,000 received over a couple years to remediate the former brownfield. Subsequently, the BDC received infrastructure grants from the US EDA of $3.85 million, IJDC loans of $1.9 million, and WDA grant for $3.5 million. Brooke County, through its support of the BDC, has managed to create between 185 and 215 jobs at the formerly abandoned brownfield site in Beach Bottom, which, growing up, this thing was honestly a grease stain on the side of the road. It's now a home to Jupiter Aluminum, Bisco Refractories, Pure Watercraft, soon, and Tenaris. So we are extremely proud of this property, and BDC through the BHJ Coalition Grant is also seeking to acquire approximately 60 additional acres, bringing the total developable site to 208 acres, which would make it one of the larger super sites in the state of West Virginia. Go to the next slide, please. And just to show you the difference between that former brownfield site that we were able to generate, between 185 and 215 jobs, which by the way took 11 years. We have the Fonte USA site in Weirton in the Half Moon area, which is in Brooke County. This was an abandoned warehouse. No EPA or DEP issues to be heard of, but it had sat dormant since 2013. So in 2019, BDC started the process of cleaning this up and bringing in investments. We did get about $850,000 in public investment, which consisted of US EPA Phase 1 and Phase 2 grants, about $60,000, and an IJDC loan of $650,000. The city of Weirton, through their revolving loan fund, also contributed about $40,000. So we were able to turn this into, which by the way, if you look at this number, $850,000 of public money leveraged $30 million of private investment to create approximately 40 jobs. We just held a ribbon cutting about a month ago. So that project took approximately 4 years. So, what we really want to highlight is this ability to leverage these public funds to bring in additional private investment. If you don't have to go back to the previous slide, but the grants and loans that we received at Beach Bottom is about 15 million, and then leveraged 22 million in private investment. So with the help of our state and federal partners, we are really able to make a larger impact. And having said that, I would like to, thank, this body and the legislature in general for the approving the 24-2-1N, which is the Yes West Virginia Site Readiness Program. And I urge your continued support and funding of that program, as it will allow small counties like Brooke County to go through this process with more guidance and hopefully get to an end result quicker. Next slide. You're already there. So, just so everybody's aware, I went ahead and put up the county revenues here. All right, the growth that we have seen is not reflected in our revenue numbers. The county has several pilots that it offered in order to get a lot of this development to happen. So the revenue that we're going to see from these projects is a few years down the road. But fortunately, in the meantime, we do have a lot of oil and gas revenues to see us through to get to that point. You can see a general upward trend in the last 2 fiscal years. Please note that includes our ARPA funding. 22 to 23, it had not yet been spent, so it showed up again in this current fiscal year. Our goal as a county is to continue investing in these kinds of projects to hopefully raise our tax base, which will eventually allow us to decrease our per capita levy rate on our residents. That is the ultimate goal. Right now, Brooke County is at its maximum levy rate. We cannot tax anymore. We do not want to be that county that does that right now. We are preparing for growth. We have rearranged our levies in the county to reallocate approximately $900,000 per year to fund our EMS crew. We hope to grow and expand, and in fact, we are in the process. If you can go to the next slide, please. We're in the process of, on the left there, building a $2.1 million centralized EMS station, which we see as an investment, not only in our people, but also financially it makes sense. Currently, we're spread out on both ends of the county. We operate 2 different buildings, and it is not efficient whatsoever. So we do hope that this is an investment and we will see a return on that soon enough. We are also using our current increased revenues. We are building a $12.4 million judicial center in Brooke County. Currently, our magistrate court operates out of a basement in the old courthouse with a floor drain in the middle of it. It used to be in a bank building up the road that was absolutely not handicap accessible. Our family court is operating out of a closet under our stairs. It's a sad state for our judicial system to be in the county, but I think that we have more than remedied that with a 33,000 square foot annex that is solely to serve the judicial offices. We have also gone ahead and we are building a new 911 dispatch center within the old courthouse, about $1.3 million project. And we also replaced every single ambulance. Well, I shouldn't say that. We've replaced so far 3 ambulances within our county with plans to do the rest here over the next 5 to 10 years. So we are using our increased revenues right now for the purpose of investing in our public buildings and our public programs that hopefully will have a long-lasting impact. Oh, and having said all that, we also, the county received $4.25 million in ARPA funds, which we have dedicated every penny to water and sewer projects among our non-municipal PSDs across the county, which are providing them with pretty necessary updates that have been put off for a number of years. So with that, we hope that our contribution to the economic prosperity of the region makes a difference, and we are preparing simultaneously for what comes in the future. Thank you.
Any questions? Gentleman from the 97.
I actually have a quick question for Mr. Adams, and this one I wanted to ask him quickly. Do you guys have any type of evaluation on the other ancillary type businesses that are going to come to support Form? So other businesses, in other words, you know, there is a huge developable site up there. Is there any talk, or is there a list of any other businesses that's going to come to work with them or support them?
I would probably direct that to the people from Frontier.
Okay.
They're as I said, they've spent about $100 million on remediating that site. There are prospects. They talk about prospects a lot. Quite frankly, I don't have time to kind of run them down, but I would, lay down yards, truckers, rail yard, a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
I
was very excited to see the list that you provided of the jobs and of the businesses that are in West Virginia that are working on the project, and hopefully other businesses are going to come to support them. And you also talked about a lot of the restaurants and stuff.
Right.
With the growth, with other businesses. We've seen that in the Eastern Panhandle. And not to get too far off topic here, Form Energy has become a wage issue in the Eastern Panhandle, if you can believe that. So I like to take back as much information as I can to make sure that we can, our constituents understand that this is a good deal for West Virginia.
Well, what I'll do is I'll reach out to Frontier, because as I said, they're marketing it. And there's been a lot of inquiries and whatnot, but I basically direct it to them.
Sure.
Because, and quite frankly, most of the time they're talking to prospects that might not necessarily want, to be publicized just yet too, So, but if I can get more on that, I'd be more than happy to share that with you. As I said, the site is so different now than what it was before, that I think is just a linchpin for many, many places.
Thank you for your presentation.
Any other questions of our two gentlemen? All right, now we will have a dissertation from Joshua Jefferson.
I'm not trying to keep it short. I appreciate that, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes, thanks. I would like to thank you and the committee for having us today. We represent the Ohio, Marshall, and Western County area of the state of West Virginia. But we're fortunate today to be meeting in a region that is a reflection of the progress and the momentum that our whole state is seeing. I'm going to speak a little bit to that today. So, as you heard from our colleagues today. So I'm fortunate to have a dual purpose during our time together today. I hope everybody can see our slide presentation. One is to share a little bit about the progress being made, but two, and more importantly, is to thank you for your leadership and your energy that we've been able to see across the Mountain State as we see projects continue to be announced, investments made, and opportunities created for our residents, which is the most important. The importance of growth and support, not just in regions, but throughout the Mountain State, throughout our great state. So as president of the Regional Economic Development Partnership, we're a regional organization, but our mantra is really to be a champion for statewide success. That's what we try to do every day. There's not a day in our office, I think it was mentioned earlier, that we don't hear the words rising tides raise all ships, or go state, thing that we do internally. As an organization, we celebrate statewide successes, explore multi-regional partnerships, and promote total collaboration across the state of West Virginia. So I have a few slides that I'd like to share to demonstrate that statewide cooperation. So this first one here, when West Virginia wins, we all win. You heard great projects today from Form Energy up north, Hancock and Brooke County. We're excited about Mason County. We're excited about Jackson County. We're excited about every county. That's what we really need to see the state of West Virginia do well. We appreciate the efforts that everybody in this room is making to do that. And we want to play our part in doing that. So anytime there's a success across the Mountain State, we should all celebrate. And that's how we feel, and we feel that sincerely. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the momentum that we've seen around the state that's reflected in our area. So this is the Wheeling Streetscape. So you guys, I think most people have had a tour of the Wheeling Streetscape probably yesterday. There's a lot of construction. Construction is fantastic. We love construction. We love cones, we love cranes, we love the whole thing. We love everything being built. So obviously this legislative body and the governor were instrumental in getting that done. $32 million. It's changing the historic city of Wheeling and creating a future for it. So we're super excited about that. Partnerships in progress. WVU Medicine, I'm sure some of you have heard about WVU Medicine, maybe got a tour yesterday as well. They're a huge partner of ours. WVU Medicine is the largest employer in the state of West Virginia. They're the largest employer in this county. They're the third largest employer in Marshall County. They're the fourth largest employer in Wetzel County. They're a huge partner for us, and they're making significant investments in downtown. That cancer center is going to be a regional cancer center. It's going to be a destination for medical treatment from Ohio to Pennsylvania. So we're super excited about it. It's going to transform the whole region. Our next slide, we're really excited about this. We're talking about statewide collaboration. We are a huge fan of President Brad Smith. We think he's fantastic. We know that him and our leadership at WVU and our leadership around the state went across the country, are bringing people back. There's visionaries among us, and what we want to do is find a way to help them, support that effort. Marshall has a tremendous aviation program. What we did was work with our university here, West Liberty University, and there's a collaboration now to bring that aviation program to this area. So the Green M will be flying up in Hyde County. We're super excited about that. We want to help that program grow. We're super excited about it. So this was the announcement we made at the Wheeling Hyde County Airport. Our county commission in Hyde County had said we need to do something with that airport. It was kind of an underlying, not much going on there. There's tremendous property there. There's about 1,000 acres. This is the linchpin that's going to get that happening, and it's going to be a collaboration statewide. So we're super excited about it, and we're excited about the vision that Marshall has and the vision Dr. Smith, or President Smith, and Dr. Borchers, who's West Liberty, have been fantastic to work with. There's a lot of synergy there, so we're super excited about it. The Reconnect program, Senator Clements is here. So our organization, actually there's, okay, sorry, I was skipped through one. So I wanted to talk about major projects and international companies. This was a unique announcement for us. This is in Marshall County. This is Thermali Chemical. $150 million being invested in Marshall County. We did a dual announcement on this project. The governor actually announced this project during the State of the State in January. We did an announcement in Charleston, did another announcement in Marshall County, which we think is a great model because that's what it really takes to get all projects to come to fruition. So we're super excited about that. The project on the right is AO Energy. It's a Turkish company. Both these companies, this is their first international investment in North America. So I wrote down in my notes, what's a county? When you're talking to people from India and people from Turkey, a county, we want to see them come to West Virginia. That's what we want to see. We want to see them in West Virginia. So we were super excited to welcome them. We want to make sure we celebrated that statewide. That was what we wanted to do. So we were fortunate to have two significant investments of international caliber look at West Virginia. It's because the leadership of this body, the governor, that have said, look, be in West Virginia. And that's what we should all be saying, from the regional level to our local level, be in West Virginia. So we're excited about that. The next slide is our Reconnect program. I saw Senator Clements in here, who's a good friend of ours. Senator Clements is great. We have a great relationship with our federal partners, Senator Manchin, Senator Capito. This project, knowing our region, we're a unique region over 3 counties, needs in Ohio County are different than needs in Wetzel County. Wetzel County is a very rural county. What they needed when we found out during COVID was that broadband was a challenge. And obviously, you guys know that, our leadership knows that. So we stepped in and played a small role in getting a project done with the USDA. And that project's going to be over $4 million, 87 miles of broadband, and estimated 1,400 homes and businesses in Wetzel County. So we're super excited about that project, and it's a good fit. We think it's going to be really beneficial. We're hoping it'll even serve more. So that's kind of the role that we're playing there. The next slide is our most recent. So this is a great story. Again, it's a great collaboration. One of the gentlemen in our office is our business development manager. He was on family vacation, ran into this gentleman on a family vacation right outside of Baltimore, Maryland. Went to Gumtree. It's an indoor shooting range. Came back, said, man, this would be great in West Virginia. So he went back, he struck up a friendship with these guys. They came in and we sold them from the beginning to the end. So they love the state of West Virginia. We brought in our emergency management, we brought in our law enforcement, we brought our counties, our city, our state officials. And on the way home to Baltimore, he got a phone call from the governor. That's what sold. At the end of the day, this is going to be a great project for the whole region. It's going to be great for training. It's going to be great for recreation. But he was looking at multiple locations. But because of relationships that the whole state was able to build, it sold him, and he's located at the Highlands. So we see a lot of opportunity there. And we're excited because it's going to bring in people from Pennsylvania, people from Ohio. They were already having conversations in Pittsburgh. So we're super excited to have people at destination to come to West Virginia. So all of this goes to our whole state. What we're seeing in Mason County, Jackson County, up north, we need people to live in West Virginia. That's what we need. We need people to live in West Virginia. We've got population, we're the only state in West Virginia, or the only state in the country that's less people now than it did in 1950. But the good news is, we're turning the ship. So in our office, we look at 2030, because in 2030, we want that population to be increasing. We got to do that every day, put work in every day to grow that population. So we're super excited about that because we feel like there's real energy here across the state. And the more and more that people move to West Virginia, see the beauty that we all see, that we all enjoy, they'll move here. So what have you, and this is one of the things that you guys have already taken action to do. You've been very progressive. So we see the challenges, we've heard the challenges. You can go to the next slide, I'm sorry. You can go to the next slide. This is challenges, these are headlines. But really, they're not challenges, they're opportunities for us. So we see them as huge opportunities. So being proactive, this legislative body put the Build West Virginia Act in. Build West Virginia is across the state of West Virginia. We're super excited about that because we feel like there's some real incentives to attract some home builders, and especially in the northern part of the state, eastern panhandle, and really if you look around the state of West Virginia, we can bring people across the border to live in West Virginia. And this is one of the first tools that we can do that, and we're excited about it. Are there some things that we can maybe build on from the Build West Virginia Act? We've talked about it internally in our office a little bit, about maybe using that as a pilot for personal income tax. They don't pay personal income tax if you live in the build district. Does it make sense? I don't know. It may not. That's for a lot of people smarter than us to kind of consider, people in this room. But that's one of the things we're looking at is how do we bring people to West Virginia so we can increase that? We're creating the jobs, we're creating the investments. But we want to see people living in West Virginia enjoy the things that we have here. So in closing, I thought I'd just highlight the importance of statewide growth. I grew up in West Virginia. I've lived in West Virginia all my life. I love the state. So I thought I'd use a quote from someone that probably all know. It's a well-known quote that we all know, Mr. Tony Caridi. But we like to think of it as the concept of economic development. From Weirton to Welch, from Martinsburg to Matewan, and all the points in between. Economic development is important, and we want to be part of that. We'll play a role in some way to see the state of West Virginia, and we think that all of our partners will do the same. So, in that, I say thank you, and I hope you guys enjoy your reception. And I hope you enjoyed the thing with you. Thank you very much.
Questions? Questions? If not, gentlemen, coaching.
I move we adjourn.
Gentleman offers the motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you very much.